Dr. Fauci, we don't know whether the pandemic started in a lab in Wuhan or evolved naturally, but we should want to know. 3 million people have died from this pandemic, and that should cause us to explore all possibilities. Instead, government authorities, self-interested in continuing gain-of-function research, say there's nothing to see here. Gain-of-function research, as you know, is juicing up naturally occurring animal viruses to infect humans. To arrive at the truth, the U.S. government should admit that the Wuhan Virology Institute was experimenting to enhance the coronavirus's ability to infect humans. Juicing up superviruses is not new. Scientists in the U.S. have long known how to mutate animal viruses to infect humans. For years, Dr. Ralph Barrick, a virologist in the U.S., has been collaborating with Dr. Shi Zhengli of the Wuhan Virology Institute, sharing his discoveries about how to create superviruses. This gain-of-function research has been funded by the NIH. The collaboration between the U.S. and the Wuhan Virology Institute continues. Doctors Barrick and Shi worked together to insert bat virus spike protein into the backbone of the deadly SARS virus, and then use this man-made supervirus to infect human airway cells. Think about that for a moment. The SARS virus had a 15% mortality. We're fighting a pandemic that has about a 1% mortality. Can you imagine if a SARS virus that's been juiced up and had viral proteins added to it, to the spike protein, if that were released accidentally? Dr. Fauci, do you still support funding of the NIH funding of the lab in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, with all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Do they fund Dr. Barrick?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain-of-function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain-of-function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina.
You don't think inserting a bat virus spike protein that he got from the Wuhan Institute into the SARS virus is gain of function?
That is
You would
not
be in the minority because at least 200 scientists have signed a statement from the Cambridge Working Group saying that it is gain of function.
Well, it is not. And if you look at the grant and you look at the progress reports, it is not gain of function, despite the fact that people tweet that. However, I will repeat again, the NIH and NIAID categorically has not funded gain-of-function research to be conducted in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
That's one small step.
Nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds.
I have a dream that all men are created equal.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
What's up, Doom Nation? We are back again. You were listening to the Two Doom Men podcast. As always, it's Skaggs and your captain here. How you doing, bud?
All rise for the trial of Dr. Anthony Fauci. I'm doing good.
Yep.
Our buddy over there, Dr. Truth Science, he's not doing too good.
No, he's not. And, you know, I was thinking of this today. So we started this podcast over a year ago, right?
Yeah, it's almost 2 years now.
Yeah. So if you told me 2 years ago that this unheard of director of the NIH or the NIDH or whatever he's director of,
the top doctor in the country.
If you were to say Anthony Fauci, I would have went, who? And then if you were to tell me you were going to spend episode after episode after episode after episode, viciously going after this guy for just lying blatantly. I would have laughed at you. I would have said, who's this doctor? But now he's the villain of Doom Nation, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I've never imagined we were going to do this many episodes about him.
Yeah. If you would have told me 2 years ago that some random unelected bureaucrat was going to set policy that affected my freedom and individual liberties, I'd have told you were a crackpot. Yep. But here we are. And this guy was essentially, this guy is one of the reasons why this podcast exists. Let's put it that way.
Well,
to oppose, crazy, sociopaths that are, trying to infringe on your liberty and whatnot. So we are going to go after Dr. Fauci on this episode. We had 2 episodes last week that were a little bit more fun. Hope you guys enjoyed those. Them. So we went off topic, and this dropped during that week. And this is probably one of the most important stories and things that has happened in a long time. And it got barely any coverage, of course, from the corporate press, and that's where we fill the gap. We're here to talk about it and cover it because it's dumb. So if you guys remember, you actually saw it at the beginning of this episode. Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci had an exchange back on May 11th of 2021, where Rand Paul pressed Dr. Fauci on funding gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Lab. And as you saw at the end there, Dr. Fauci said that the NIH categorically had not funded gain-of-function research to be conducted at the Wuhan Lab. So new information came out this past week that the NIH said, whoops, we did fund gain-of-function at the Wuhan Lab. Go ahead.
And to be clear, the NIH came out with this. There's no crackpot theory, some congressman, some journalist, somebody who you do like or you don't like. The NIH came out with this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to try and keep this episode in the spirit of a trial. So we're going to present evidence, and then I'll let Dr. Fauci come in at the end. He's going to be a guest, and he's going to defend himself at the end. But let's start with the second video of Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci, because this is all incriminating evidence. So on this is on July 20th of 2011. You got to hand it to Rand Paul. The guy's been, trying to do what matters and somehow hold the good doctor here. And he's painted as the bad guy. Of course.
Imagine that.
But he's the hero on Two Doomed Men. So let's go here to, this is the second encounter between Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci back on July 20th.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans. Right. You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking about. Okay, you get one person.
Let's read from the NIH definition of gain of function. This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research that increases the transmissibility among mammals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world from a pandemic.
And let's let Dr. Fauci.
I have to, well, now you're getting into something. If the point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth to Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2. That's where you are getting. Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well,
we don't
wait
know
a minute.
if it did come from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including yourself.
I totally
This committee will allow the witness to respond.
I totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator. Because if you look at the viruses that were used in the experiments, that were given in the annual reports, that were published in the literature, it is molecularly impossible.
No one's saying those
It
viruses
is-
caused it.
it
No
is
one is alleging that
molecularly-
those viruses caused the pandemic. What we're alleging is that gain-of-function research was going on in that lab, and NIH funded it.
That
You
is
can't
not-
get away from it. It meets your definition, and you are obfuscating the truth.
I'm not obfuscating the truth.
Senator
You are the
Paul's
one.
time is expired, but I will allow the witness to.
Let me just finish. I want everyone to understand that if you look at those viruses, and that's judged by qualified virologists and evolutionary biologists, those viruses are molecularly impossible
No one's
to
saying
result
they are. No
in
one's saying those viruses
SARS-CoV-2.
caused the pandemic.
Senator Paul,
We're saying they are gain-of-function viruses because they were
they're not.
animal viruses that became more transmissible in human, and you funded it.
And
Go
you
ahead, admit the truth.
and you
Senator
implying
Paul, your time has expired, and I will allow witnesses who come before this committee to respond. Dr.
and you are implying that what we did was responsible for the deaths of individual. I totally resent
could
that.
have
And
been.
if
And it
anybody
could
is
have been.
lying here, Senator, it is you.
Say it's all right.
All right, hang on. Let me stop this. So, boy, I mean, that was good television, I have to say.
Yeah, you know, I almost feel like we are watching television, like a movie, because it's almost just, it's amazing how Fauci is just like, okay, we've caught him in this lie. He has to know back then that he's lying. He's saying like the most incriminating, you know what I'm saying? Like, he can't be any more incriminating about this. And then, you know, the fast talking politician in him makes him, you know, start talking about whether or not this gain of function led directly to deaths, which is just changing the topic even further.
Yeah, he's it's funny because we talk about the iron law of woke projection. Everything he keeps saying is what he's doing. He's saying, you know, you're obfuscating, you're trying to conflate. No, that's exactly what he's trying to do. So yeah, I mean, this was interesting. You know, this is kind of old now, back from July, but it's interesting because this guy never gets held to account. This is like 2 times he's been held to account by anyone. So again, credit to Rand Paul, you know, for going after him on this. But the reason why I wanted you guys for this episode to see both of those is because when you testify in front of Congress like that, you are under oath. And if you lie under oath, you are then open to being, you know, whatever, prosecuted for perjury, I believe it is, which is punishable by 5 years in jail. Could be wrong, could be more, could be less. I don't know, depending on some technicalities. But what's funny here is this new information comes out. And in order for me to even get an article on this, I had to go to Vanity Fair. Right.
That's where I found one. Yeah.
Because I could have gone to Fox News, who obviously covered it, but as we know, they are somewhat biased. The rest of the corporate press, CNN, etc., they didn't write any articles about the NIH here. So again, here we go. Vanity Fair. In a major shift, the NIH admits funding risky virus research in Wuhan. A spokesman for Dr. Fauci says he has been entirely truthful, but a new letter belatedly acknowledging the National Institute of Health support for virus-enhancing research adds more heat to the ongoing debate over whether a lab leak could have sparked the pandemic. I totally resent your lie. You're not propagating. This is rehashing the argument between the two, which we just showed you guys. On Wednesday, the NIH sent a letter to members of the House Committee on Energy and Commerce that acknowledged 2 facts. One was that EcoHealth Alliance, a New York City-based nonprofit that partners with far-flung laboratories to blah, 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 did indeed enhance a bat coronavirus to become potentially more infectious to humans. While the NIH letter described as an unexpected result of the research it funded that was carried out in partnership with the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So to be clear, the letter, which I'll show you guys before, I don't know if you want me to read it all over again, but the letter says it was an unexpected result. So they're kind of trying to say, well, the gain of function part of our research was unexpected. It was just an unexpected thing that happens in science.
We bought blue paint and we started painting the room, and then the room was blue and it was unexpected.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're saying. The second was that EcoHealth Alliance violated the terms of its grant conditions, stipulating that it had to report if its research increased the viral growth of pathogen by tenfold. So two-pronged. Number one, gain-of-function research occurred. The NIH is saying it was not planned. It was not expected. It just happened by science. I'm not a scientist. I'm some asshole on YouTube that does a podcast. I don't know. I don't know how those things work. That's what they're saying. Number two, they're supposed to have reported that this happened, and they didn't. I mean, like they did now, but it's obviously very late after the fact. So that's the beginning part of the article. The NIH based these disclosures on a research progress report that EcoHealth Alliance sent to the agency in August, roughly 2 years after it was supposed to. An NIH person told Vanity Fair that Dr. Fauci was entirely truthful in his statements to Congress, and that he did not have the progress report that detailed the controversial research at the time he testified in July. So they're trying to say that he didn't know this, he didn't have this report about the unexpected results that were gain of function research, and that they did, like they didn't report it, so he didn't know about it. So even if you want to use that argument, in my opinion, and say that the buck stops with the guy in charge, right? If you don't know what's going on under a program that you funded that has, repercussions that are extremely dangerous, it's still your fault. I know you're chomping at the bit. Go ahead.
Yeah. Pull up the article again, just because there's no more link for it on my phone. I'm in the Google Doc. Wait, is this it?
Yeah.
No.
There you go.
Okay. So so let's take Fauci out of this. It admits two things now. It said, where is it? The second EcoHealth Alliance violated its terms and conditions and had
grant
that it had
conditions.
report. Yeah.
Remember the money, the funding. Yeah.
But it violated this. So here we are, people admitting that EcoHealth is in violation of something. So if Fauci's not going to be held accountable, why isn't EcoHealth being held accountable yet? And also, they're trying to say Fauci and the NIH didn't have this updated research report from EcoHealth, and it was almost 2 years late. We are in the middle of a pandemic. Was this 2 years late prior to the pandemic, or is this 2 years late to today? So like 2 years ago, they were supposed to have this report out.
2 years, I guess, late to August, right? That's a good question,
right? Because now, okay, so
2 years ago, 2 years ago in August would be August 2019, before the pandemic began, technically.
So let's say it's supposed to be then, right? And then the pandemic hit, and now the NIH is scrambling because there is a pandemic happening in this world of coronavirus. You didn't. Where's the communication between the NIH and EcoHealth that they didn't have to release this report for 2 years? Either you sat on it and you didn't want it to be released, or two, you're still negligent because you're letting this company that took taxpayer money go over to communist China and do gain of function research on the exact same virus that is now plaguing the planet. And also, don't forget, when we did one of our many episodes about Fauci, that the CEO of EcoHealth thanked Fauci for denying the lab leak theory.
Yeah, I know. Like, like that's not public knowledge, and we don't remember that,
Is this, when do people feel this is suspicious? Like, I really think too many people have watched like Scooby-Doo, and it needs to come down to the point where like you pull the COVID mask off the germ and it's Anthony Fauci or something like that. I don't know how else it needs to be painted.
That might be it, to be honest with you. Maybe we need to get the gang, the whole gang on it.
Yeah.
Going back also to the second exchange between Paul and Fauci. The question in debate from Rand Paul was that you and the NIH did gain of function research. He wasn't accusing him 100% of that gain of function research led to COVID-19.
Yeah.
he said maybe, right? And if that is the case, you'll be held accountable for it. But every time Dr. Fauci tried to say that that's what you're trying to say and that's not true, Rand Paul kept coming back to, well, no, I'm just saying that you keep telling me you didn't fund the research, and you did fund the research, and now you're telling me you didn't fund the research. What's amazing is that Rand Paul had like this paperwork already. He didn't have obviously the admission that they did it from the NIH, but he had like the details, the report that they keep referencing.
Yeah.
And he just read it, and he read the scientists. He read the science. The guy is a doctor. I think he's an optometrist or something. So he's not a moron. And I'm sure he has a team of people there who actually understand what they're reading and like break it down. So let's go real quick to the.
Well, also, hold on, something
go ahead.
that Fauci said in his response that second time around. This has been carried up and down the chain of command and peer reviewed as not gain of function research. So there has to be. So Fauci has a team that he gave this to for review. I think it's time we investigate who are the people who reviewed this, because clearly, Fauci could do quick politics and blame Rand Paul for saying that the NIH started COVID when all he was trying to say was, did you fund gain of function research for COVID in the Wuhan lab? Yes, you did. We found that out. If there's these people out there who are working for the NIH and working with gain of function and these viruses, and you don't recognize gain of function research in this paperwork, but this senator does, you need to be brought into question as well.
Yeah. Well, I think me and you would both agree that a full investigation needs to take place here. That will go into discovery, so we could really get to the bottom of the where, what, why, and when. That's the reason why we're doing this episode, right? Because we're trying to show, look, the guy lied. Now that's justification to do an investigation of it. So let's go real quick into the letter itself. So you see here, this is official. Let me move Captain out of the way. The Department of Health and Human Services, the National Institute of Health, Bethesda, Maryland, October 20th, 2021. This is their letter. And I'm going to try and be fair here. I'll read most of it because they are trying to cover their own ass. It says that it's important to state at the outset that published genomic data demonstrate that bat coronavirus is studied under the NIH grant to EcoHealth Alliance and subaward to the Wuhan Institute of Virology are not and could not have become SARS-CoV-2. Both of the progress report and the analysis attached here again confirm that conclusion, as the sequences of viruses are genetically very distant. So let's go down to, there's a lot here. If you guys want to read it, I'm not going to read the whole thing and bore you, but I think everybody should read it. Just Google the NIH letter admitting gain of function research. Let's see, where is the interesting part here? This is a list of, the second document is genetic analysis demonstrating that naturally occurring bat coronaviruses used in experiments are decades removed from SARS-CoV-2 evolutionary. The analysis compares the sequences between. So they're saying that there's a lot of viruses that they were doing this on here, but none of them are, like he was actually saying in the video, molecularly similar to SARS-CoV-2. Again, not a scientist. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. So you're kind of just taking their word for it in a way. You know what I mean? Like, Cap, are me and you going to like get a microscope and compare all of these viruses here to COVID-19 and prove them wrong? No, we're not.
But it also sounds like a good way to cover your ass too.
Yeah, of course. But we are biased. I'm sorry. We are looking to, get some measure of revenge here.
Justice.
Where's the part I'm looking for here? I can't find it, but I wrote it down over here anyway. It says that the limited experiment described in the final progress report provided by EcoHealth Alliance was testing if spike proteins from naturally occurring bat coronaviruses circulating in China were capable of binding to the human ACE2 receptor in a mouse model. I'm not sure if that was there, but anyway. Hey, Doom Nation, it's Gags here, and thank you for joining us for another episode of Two Doom Men. If you like what we are about, help us spread the message by subscribing to our channels and sharing the show with your friends. That's the best way we can get around big tech's algorithms. You can also help support the work we do by subscribing to our Patreon account at patreon.com/2doommen or by going to linktree.com/2doommen. That will bring you to everywhere our show has a presence. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the show.
This country is doomed. It is doomed.
That fits the exact definition of gain-of-function research by the NIH that Rand Paul quoted in video 2 that we played, right? Scientific research, this is what Rand Paul said, scientific research that increases the transmissibility of disease among animals. They took animal viruses that occur only in animals and increased their transmissibility to humans. Again, the first part. The limited experiment described in this final progress report provided by EcoHealth Alliance was testing if spike proteins from naturally occurring bat coronaviruses. Go back to the definition. They took animal viruses that occur only in animals, right? Provided coronaviruses circulating in China were capable of binding to human ACE2 receptors in a mouse model. So they have these lab mice that have like human cells in them. And they were testing naturally occurring bat coronaviruses on mice that have human cells. That is literally gain of function research that Rand Paul was saying back in July. And this, this letter from the NIH says that. It literally says that. That is what the letter says. I read it word for word, and I read what Rand Paul said word for word. So there you have it. I don't care if it's unintended or whatever. These are scientists. This is a lab. It happened. Rand Paul was right, and Dr. Fauci was wrong. Yeah. He lied. Did he know? Did he not know? I don't know. That's hearsay at this point, but
doesn't matter
there
anymore.
It is.
For the director to not know what the grant research money is going to is wildly negligent, and they know where every penny goes, so they knew. But even if so, this wasn't. EcoHealth wasn't doing this research in Wuhan at the beginning of 2020 when COVID started. This was years in the past.
This had to be before, who knows, way before.
Right.
At minimum 2 years, 2 years ago, minimum.
So for 2 years, they knew that, this gain of function research existed and that it could infect human people. And we're still supposed to believe some guy ate bad bat soup. Meanwhile, there's a lab down the street that has known about this for close to 2 years now. But the only person that didn't know about this was Dr. Anthony Fauci. Yeah. And even when the pandemic took off, let's say, we can't trust China. That's fine. Let's just say, for the sake of things, when the pandemic took off, no one at EcoHealth or the Wuhan Lab was like, "Oh shit, wasn't that what we were just working on?" No. It was
no warnings bells went off in anybody's head.
Everything
was on the up and up. Everything's fine. That's science. Things happen, and it just happened to be. Sorry, we forgot to say it. For a few months. That's it.
Yeah, to an extent. Whether they're guilty or not, they are guilty. You still knew that there was this research. You did the research to figure out how to fight it, right? You did the research to figure out how to fight it. But yet, how many people died worldwide? You were doing the research on figuring out how to fight this stuff. You know what I mean? And yet we allowed all these people to die. Lockdowns were the wrong thing to do. All these mandates aren't working out in their favor, but we already did the research on this. Yeah.
Well, no, they didn't do the research on the measures. Let's be frank on the response measures. Right. And even if they did, it's fake science. It's junk science. We talked about a long time ago that USA Today article proving it was about a study in Europe that proved that the lockdowns did absolutely nothing to stop the spread of the virus. So, that's all junk science, lockdowns. I'm sorry, YouTube, lockdowns, talking about lockdowns only. Junk science is junk science.
It's just insane to have all this research that's been done and to not only not learn anything from it, they denied it. Fauci literally said, no, we have never funded gain of function research. And yes, you did.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I got to play the video.
Uh,
You know what I mean? And this is not the first time he's lied. He lied at the onset of the pandemic, saying you don't need a mask and there's no mask whatsoever. Then he changed his mind because of, saying, oh, well, there wasn't enough masks, etc. Fine, whatever. I understand your point there, but you lied. He is living, as we've said before, in an alternate universe that doesn't exist. Again, I'll go back to Christmas. Christmas is canceled apparently, or it's on the fence. We don't know if we can hang out for Christmas. Meanwhile, there's, sports stadiums full of hundreds of thousands of people. You go to the bars are packed, people are drinking, they're having a good time. But this guy's living in some sort of alternate universe where he's clinging on to the power the power he perceives himself to have, where he could literally tell people what to do in like their little day-to-day scenarios. This guy thinks he could just do that. And he's lied so many times. He's lied about this. He lied to Congress. And he'll probably, let's be honest, face no accountability because no one in government ever does.
And what else is he lying about? He's only lied 500 times, but on this certain topic that we can't talk about on YouTube, he's not lying.
Yeah. Let's also, I made, if you guys watched it, that little skit with the African funeral dancers and whatnot. And there was a couple of Giphies in there. If you're not familiar with what Giphies are, you know what they are, Cap, right? Those
little things that pop up.
Meme things, yeah.
Yeah.
Go search Dr. Fauci in Giphy, and it's just bizarre. There's so many Giphies that are like, there's one that literally says, pray for Saint Fauci. I got my Fauci ouchie. Like, it's very bizarre, weird behavior by humans to be idolizing the bureaucrat in charge of the NIH. It's just everything behind. And on top of the fact that if he was a saint, okay, maybe I get it. People like him. You know what I mean? But he's a proven liar. And people are worshiping him as if he's a messiah. Wrong. Literally, pray for Saint Fauci.
Yeah.
If you are a Catholic or a Christian, that is blasphemy to make a Giphy like that. I don't know who actually made the Giphy, but it's just bizarre that something like that even exists.
People are going to follow him right into his prison cell, man. Right down that drain. I think it's to the point though. We've been saying it. People don't want to wake up. It's literally just tribalism at its worst. He's on my team. I don't care how wrong he is. He's right in my eyes. No, like this letter from the NIH isn't going to do anything for me.
No,
people just want to keep their head in the sand and comply. And I'm sure he'll come out and get on, CNN or something soon and drop some more mandates or something that we should do. I was thinking of it. It just shows how out of touch and unprepared the establishment is. Because me and you have known this guy was a fraud. Go back however many episodes you want to go back. We knew there was something fishy with this guy. For the establishment who is on the brink of possibly succeeding with the New World Order, you would maybe try and waver a little bit. Like, how tone deaf do you need to be that Fauci is compromised? Waste him, don't kill him or nothing, but get him out of there and get another one of your shills in place. People are stupid. They'll forget about Fauci. You know what I mean? Get this new guy in there, let him do a little bit of different, make him a little different, and then just back to the same path, and nobody's going to bat an eye. This guy's compromised. If the people who believe him are those 39% of Americans who think Biden's still doing a good job.
Well, here's the thing. Do you think that this letter coming out and whatnot is a step to maybe trying to get rid of him because of what you just said? Why did they put this letter out now all of a sudden? Just for no reason?
One of two things. Maybe I'm right, and the establishment is like, all right, you're compromised. We got to get you out. Or two, a lot of, the conspiracy shit I follow. I'm not getting into any rabbit hole with this, but they're like, all the conspiracy theorists knew about this stuff months ago. We've spoken about this stuff months ago.
Yeah,
we knew.
Take a genius.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even need to be a conspiracy theorist to put two and two together and go, wait a minute. If you literally looked at everything that we've presented with an open mind and no political background, you'd go, okay, there's something suspicious here.
Let's also be
or
clear, like Dr. Fauci is not technically a Democrat or Republican or he's just a bureaucrat that's in charge of the health thing. So if you want to say, oh, you don't like him because he's a Democrat, he's really not though.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. This is somebody who comes from a place of unbiasedness and bipartisanness, and just the left has accepted him as their team member.
Their prophet.
But where I was going with this was, a lot of people were saying timing's everything. All the conspiracy people knew about this, but what if this is, the domino that starts to unravel a different narrative or something? We already see that the administration is unraveling to a certain point. We already see that people are standing up against, these mandates and things of that nature. What if, if it's all timing and they held on to this for the right time to start unraveling him?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, you're going down like the negative rabbit hole. What if this is just the first step in getting rid of the guy finally? I do think that, and I've had this debate with people before, he serves no purpose anymore, right? Because the only people he's talking to are the people who blindly obey whatever he says. You know what I mean? And if your goal is really to change people's minds on getting vaccinated or follow the decree of the public health czar, like I don't even think that position should exist. But if you really are trying to get people to listen to that guy, this is not the guy, because he's been anymore compromised. He's not going to change me or your mind ever, nor anyone else who thinks like us. And whose mind do they need to change? Mine and yours, right? So I don't understand the play here. So maybe this is, a step towards him being held accountable and getting rid of him and getting somebody in there who's actually going to do what should be done the correct way. Again,
whoever
I don't think that position should even
better.
Yeah, I'm sure, right? But that it makes no sense to have this guy in there anymore saying you can't go out for Christmas. He's just living in fantasy realm, in imagination land. Like
apparently he's got a big portrait of himself in his own office.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the guy.
The best thing for him to do, honestly, would to just be going back to behind the scenes. Like
he doesn't want to, bro. He is enjoying this. He's enjoying
he doesn't want to, but he's only just. In my eyes, he's only just incriminating himself more and digging a deeper grave. You ever see somebody just like where you got to stand up and be like, well, somebody get the shovel away from this guy. I don't think it's too far away from that for him.
What's up, Doom Nation? This is Jimbo the Kid from the Last Slice Podcast. Join Trillboy, Bodega Cat, and I for some fun-filled dating, political, sex, and gaming episodes on our channel. Just type in the Last Slice Podcast in the search bar. You can also catch us on all audio platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Come check us out, grab a slice, and enjoy the show.
Yeah, I really don't think so, because I mean, you look at Cuomo, right? I mean, yeah, he lost his job, but he's not getting held accountable in any other way. That's how establishment politicians are served justice. They just have to resign. They never actually get any, they never get the book thrown at them or anything like that. That's not how it works. It's like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you ain't in it. You get to retire and go live comfortably. That's your punishment. But at least you're not in the role of power anymore, doing more harm. You know what I mean? Like, at least, like with Cuomo, at least he's gone now. We don't have to deal with him anymore. You could argue his replacement's even worse. But
that's going to be the problem. That's going to be the problem, because whoever we replace Fauci with now, his or her hands will be soaked in blood. It'll be just another establishment shill. But I think for the establishment's sake, that's the right move. Like, if you're looking to convert more people, you ain't doing it with this guy.
No,
he's converted everybody that's willing to
convertible. Now he's just literally preaching to the choir.
Now he has a target on his back.
Yeah. So I mean, let's bring him on. What do you think?
Sure.
We've been going after him now for a couple of minutes. Let's bring him on and hear his response to the NIH letter, and obviously Rand Paul. I mean, another point, man, why is Rand Paul the only guy doing this? Where is the rest of the Republican Party?
Oh, they don't.
Where is one critical thinking Democrat? There are none, not a single one. The only ones that exist are like Tulsi Gabbard, who's not even in Congress anymore, and Jimmy Dore, who is not a politician. He's another podcasting idiot like us. Those are the only Democrats who are actually saying anything about it. Yep. The rest of the party is just complete lockstep defending a bureaucrat. It's not like he's even a member of their party, like we said before, but they're not even saying anything about it. So, I mean, that should tell you something right there. So before I start, is there anything else you want to say?
No, it's fine.
All right. So let me move you over here. All right. So this is on Sunday. It is now what? Monday? This was yesterday.
Yeah.
And another thing, Dr. Fauci, he only goes on ABC, MSNBC, CNN. He doesn't ever go for an interview on Fox. He doesn't go for an interview on independent stuff. He only goes places that are going to back him up. And let's see what he has to say about all this.
The controversy over whether the U.S. was funding risky COVID research in Wuhan was kicked up again this week when the NIH released a letter about that research, which showed that the subcontractor had not disclosed some results in a timely manner. Now, some critics and analysts have seized on that to say you and others have misled the public about U.S. funding of this so-called gain-of-function research. The NIH says that's false. Our medical unit backs that up. But Senator Rand Paul stepped up that criticism in a new interview.
Hang on. You heard that? He's asking him. He's actually asking him the question. So that's good. But in the question he's asking, he defends it. What kind of journalism, what kind of reporting is that? That's like if me and you had this guy on the podcast and we're going to ask him the tough question about this report came out and it implicates you in lying. I know you didn't lie. I know you didn't lie, dude. It's okay. I know you didn't lie. But what do you have to say about it? What kind of journalism is that? What kind of reporting is that?
It's the support that he needs. There was something he said, but I forget now in the question that go back a minute. Yeah, go back. That should be that's fine.
Research which showed that the subcontractor had not disclosed some results in a timely manner. Now, some critics and analysts have seized on that to say you and others have misled the public about U.S. funding of this so-called gain-of-function research. The NIH says that's false. Our medical unit backs that up.
Okay.
But Senator Rand Paul.
You have misled the public on the funding of this gain-of-function research. I know that's not true. And then he defends him. But this is exactly what he did. So even in the question, he's lying.
It's a loaded question.
Even the question isn't even properly factual.
No,
you know what I'm
saying? Not. This is propaganda. I mean, okay, let's hear him out. We're chomping at the bit here. But this is propaganda. But it's okay. Let's continue here and let's give the doctor his chance to defend himself in the court of doomed law here.
Paul stepped up that criticism in a new interview with Axios on HBO. Let's play it.
Dr. Fauci should be fired. Absolutely. By the president. Yeah, absolutely. The thing is just for lack of judgment, if nothing else. He's probably never going to admit that he lied. He's going to continue to dissemble and try to work around the truth and massage the truth.
I want to give you the opportunity to respond to Senator Paul, but also explain what was the United States funding, what wasn't it funding, and why that's important.
Well, I obviously totally disagree with Senator Paul. He's absolutely incorrect. Neither I nor Dr. Francis Collins, the director of the NIH, lied or misled about what we've done. The framework under which we have guidance about the conduct of research that we fund, the funding at the Wuhan Institute was to be able to determine what is out there in the environment in bat viruses in China. And the research was very strictly under what we call a framework of oversight of the type of research. And under those conditions, which we've explained very, very clearly, does not constitute research of gain of function of concern. There are people who interpret it that way, but when you look at the framework under which the guidance is, that is not the case. So I have to respectfully disagree with Senator Paul. He is not correct that we lied or misled the Congress. It's just not correct, George. I'm sorry.
Right, and it showed that what was being researched was very far from the SARS-CoV virus, but it did show that the subcontractor did not release some results in a timely manner. What did we learn from the letter? Does it show that some of the research we were funding was riskier than we know?
No, it isn't. We knew what the risk was and what the oversight is. Certainly, they should have put their progress report in a timely manner. No denial of that, and there will be administrative consequences of that. But one of the things that gets mixed up in this, George, and it really needs to be made clear
You see how he said, oh, well, they should have put the report out in a timely manner, and there's going to be consequences for the guys who didn't. I mean, so that within, yes, right. The leader here is passing the buck to some secretary or whatever, and they're going to, well, yeah, they're going to face accountability. You'd bet your ass that person's going to face accountability for not putting out the report in time. Not me, though, just that person.
Here to the American public, there's all of this concern about what's gain of function or what's not, with the implication that that research led to SARS-CoV-2 and COVID-19, which, George, unequivocally, anybody that knows anything about viral biology and phylogeny of viruses know that it is molecularly impossible for those viruses that were worked on to turn into SARS-CoV-2 because they were distant enough molecularly that no matter what you did to them, they could never, ever become SARS-CoV-2. And yet, when people talk about gain of function, they make that implication, which I think is unconscionable to do, to say, well, maybe that research led to SARS-CoV-2. You can ask any person of good faith who's a virologist, and they will tell you absolutely clearly that that would be molecularly impossible. So things are getting conflated, George, that should not be conflated.
Dr. Fauci, thanks as always for your time and your...
Okay.
It's funny. He uses this word, the implication of the process. They were well aware of the risk and the implication. There's a scene from Always Sunny, and it's one of their funnier scenes, and they get a boat, and Dennis wants to have girls on the boat because when you're out at sea, and the guy wants to try and have sex with you, you're less likely to say no because there's the implication that something bad might happen to you. And Mac the entire time was like, so we're going to bring girls on the boat and rape them. I'm not down for that. He's like, no, they're going to be willing. But there's the implication that, he's like, right, that sounds like the implication's rape. So here, in this instance, the implication would be, I don't know, a pandemic level virus.
Right.
You said you knew the risk, you knew the implications of doing this type of research. Just because it's molecularly impossible that what they were working on turns into the exact COVID problem we have today, fine, yes, you are correct. But is it possible? Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah, nothing is impossible, number
one.
Right, yeah. Number two, that's not the point. That's not what Rand Paul was asking you. That's not what we're even trying to say, right? Is it maybe possible? Yes, maybe it's possible. Again, we don't know. We're not scientists. The point is, you were asked point blank, was gain of function research happening at the Wuhan lab? Did you guys fund it? And I'll go back to the beginning. He said the NIH categorically has not funded gain of function research to be conducted at the Wuhan lab. The NIH put out a letter saying they did fund gain of research at the Wuhan lab. So I don't understand. Like, this is the Ministry of Truth. They just continue to lie, even though you know the truth, and they just pretend like you don't know the truth, or the truth isn't out there, or that they didn't tell you the truth, and then the other guy that works there is just lying later on. It's I don't understand. He's basically quadrupled down on the lie when he goes on here with ABC.
Well, look at, by now we recognize the playbook here. You know what I mean? You pass the buck, you double down, you deny. This is some very good word soup.
Yeah, word salad, yeah.
Yeah, because, first off, they showed 5 seconds of Rand Paul just saying, yeah, Fauci should be fired. And then, Fauci said a few things. He's like, well, anybody who's familiar with virology and okay, well, the average listener at 2:00 in the afternoon watching ABC is probably not a fucking virologist.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe explain this a little bit better or something. Like they give these short blurbs. There's no investigation. And on top of it, he's saying that these were molecularly different, blah, blah, blah. Don't forget, we're not allowed to investigate any further what happened in the Wuhan lab. You know what I mean? Like,
or they're not trying to.
Those investigations ended and got shut down.
Right, and the Chinese didn't, want to cooperate. They also threatened us with nuclear war over trying to press further on the issue.
And they also had, I think, the CEO of EcoHealth on part of the investigation team or something like that.
Yeah.
Give us a break here. There are people that are this stupid on the planet, and then there's the rest of us. So, I can't imagine with never the power of stupid people in large groups. There's people that believe this, but there's no explanation here. And on top of it, it's still not even answering the original question.
It's not, no. What's interesting is, you asked me earlier today. What did you ask me? I told you to ask me again. They'll meet again.
If they'll question Fauci again. But I also have another question too.
Even if, if Rand Paul and Fauci will meet again in this situation.
If there'll be more questioning.
I really don't think so. And I don't think so because he's been exposed now twice. And Dr. Fauci has had to move the goalposts as far as they could be moved now. He went from we didn't fund gain of function research to now saying, well, he's doubling down, but at the same time, the research that occurred could not have created, COVID-19 because it's molecularly different or whatever, their science. What's left? The only place left to go, the only thing that could possibly be uncovered left is that the research led to the creation of COVID-19. That's it. That's how far he's pushed the goalposts now. That's like the Alamo for them, right? Yeah. And they're not going to just give that up because if they do, again, speculation, I don't know. I'm not a scientist. These guys are the ones, deciphering the 10 commandments of science over there. I don't know. But he has pressed the goalpost as far as he possibly can to the Alamo of his own defense now. If Rand Paul, I don't know, knows some more shit and puts him back on the stand in Congress and says, well, look, I got this information here that now proves that this did lead to the creation of COVID-19. Now you're on the hook for 4 million deaths in the world. And you know what I mean? I don't think they allow him to get to that position or, the government bureaucracy get to that position. I hope so. I hope that we get to the bottom of this and there's a discovery and whatnot. Again, I don't know if it's even true. What they're saying could be right. It was maybe all just a big coincidence. And it had nothing had to do anything. The research they had, yes, it was gain of function, but it didn't lead to SARS-CoV-2. Maybe, I don't know, but they're in the Alamo now. That's the way I look at this.
Yeah. Yeah. So my other question is, do you think they're doing very well suppressing this, the corporate media, but you think they're going to throw anyone they can from EcoHealth under the bus? Like they're going to pass the buck, obviously.
He said it himself. The people who didn't put out the report on time.
That's going to be an administrative, some no name and some BS, administrative position. I'm talking like, do you think maybe like the CEO or something?
Peter Daszak, one of those.
Like, you think like someone along the line up top is going to have to take the hit for this?
Maybe like a Peter Daszak, someone who's, involved and at the top, but he's not in the public light the way that Fauci is. Like who the fuck knows about Peter Daszak besides like people who watch podcasts?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like go ask one of our buddies from Fucked Up Friday. Who's Peter Daszak? They aren't going to know. They're going to look at us like we got two heads. They're not going to know what we're talking about. So maybe that would be a pound of flesh to offer up, to the people who are actually paying attention, and then hope that it gets people
that it kills the story that he left EcoHealth, that we're not working with them no more. Wuhan's not working with them. There's nothing left to investigate. Sorry, it's over.
And Dr. Fauci had no knowledge of it because he never saw that report that wasn't put out on time. You know what I mean? So he's good. He's fine. Yeah.
And Fauci could come out and say like, oh, I don't think he deserves to be fired after the guy's already fired. So you look good. It's not your idea to fire him, but
right.
We can bury this story.
You gave the angry public their pound of flesh.
Yeah.
Why do we even care about this stuff? It's because this guy he's like guiding public policy, and that public policy, again, I'll bring it back to the very beginning, is the encroachment on our freedom and liberties.
Mm-hmm.
From the very onset, Me and you have never told anybody what to do. We've never told anybody what to believe. We give you our opinion and whatnot, but I'm not going to sit here and stand for some fucking psychopath who's going to, like advise the president. Even Trump, he's got a lot of blame in this whole thing, right? Because he didn't do anything about Fauci either back then. These guys are advising the people who make the rules to infringe on your liberty, right? So I don't want people like that in charge. No one elected Fauci. He's just been there, right? But why does he get to like choose if I can do a certain thing in my life? He has no say whatsoever.
You get to see your family on Christmas,
right? Right, but for some reason he thinks he does. You know what I mean? It's just bizarre.
It's the old school politicians. I always said this about Biden. Like, Biden will sniff children in front of the camera. Like when he was VP and all those pictures were being taken in the Oval Office and stuff, he couldn't keep his hands or his nose to himself.
Yeah.
Why? Because Biden has been in office for over 40 years. And for the past 40 years, no one said boo about any of this. So, and Fauci's been a bureaucrat doing the same thing for years. He even had the whole AIDS pandemic wrong all those years ago. He's been untouchable for so long that with this type of power now, there's no stopping him. He still feels either we are secretly winning and these people are in like severe panic mode, or these people are so naive and they think that they are so untouchable that they can continue carrying on this blatantly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Definitely. Hard to gauge, we're not privy to those conversations and whatnot. So
even if we uncovered those conversations, they'd say it's fake or something.
Yeah, they'd write us off as right-wing conspiracy theory nut jobs. Regardless. So, all right. I mean, I obviously think the guy lied. There should be an investigation. He should be, held, feet to the fire to answer real hard questions. And look, if he really didn't do it, I don't know. Put it to the test. Let's find out, right?
Yeah.
And if there's like a full investigation of people who want to get to the bottom of this, like if Rand Paul leads the investigation, I trust Rand Paul really wants to get to the bottom of this. He's not some shill who's going to just throw the whole thing, throw the case or something like that. And if Rand Paul comes out and tells me he was right, you know what I mean? He didn't know anything about it, etc. I'll believe it. I really would if that was the case. But we got to get there first. So that's the whole purpose of this episode is to show people that if you thought you were crazy, you're not.
Yeah. The idea that Fauci has flip-flopped so many times on so many different things throughout the past 2 years, for this to be what he's right about, for this to be what he's telling the truth about, is a little far-fetched. You know what I mean? Like, this is the one thing you're right on where if you're wrong, we're talking potential lab leak that started the pandemic. And I'm not saying that that's what it is, but like, you've been wrong about masks, you've been wrong about lockdowns, you're wrong about ventilators. You're giving all this power to these psychopath governors and mayors,
or advising them to do this.
Yeah, that are wrecking their states individually. You're fighting, like in Florida, COVID has the least amount of new COVID cases at the
moment, right?
Second least COVID cases in Florida. But if you were to put Fauci, Joe Biden, and Ron DeSantis in a room, Joe Biden and Fauci would try and beat the shit out of Ron DeSantis. You know what I'm saying? Like, the one guy that's not doing what these two are telling you to do is having all this success. Fauci has moved the goalpost 100 times, has been wrong dozens of times. We've caught him lying, but this
is the time,
things,
right? Now he's
this is what he's right on. Now, before, I'm sorry guys, I lied, but now I'm really telling the truth. Believe me this time.
Right. This is like a bad teenage relationship where you keep getting caught cheating and you're like, no, I'm sorry, that was the last time. I swear to God, that was the last time. Right. That's what they're asking you to do. That's what they're asking you to believe. Just putting that out there. They're the teenagers, and they're asking you, believe me, this is the one. I'm being honest this time. I swear to God, everybody out there.
Toxic relationship.
I'm not cheating on you anymore. I'm going straight now. I ain't gonna ever lie to you again, so I could keep my job. That's what they're telling you.
Yeah.
All right.
Unbelievable.
If this wasn't bad enough, there's one more story that came out in the past week regarding Dr. Fauci.
Well,
and I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, so the story is the experiments he's done on dogs and animals. Candace Owens, I think, shared something about how they removed some part of a monkey's brain that like increases fear, and then they just terrorized it to see how it would react, which is odd to do experiments on. Now, this story just broke. When do you think the dog story broke?
Some probably a day or two after this other
Right.
you know, the Wuhan I mean the
So
NIH
within
letter.
the past week.
Yeah.
But I've heard of this stuff months ago. So once again, the crackpot
Really?
conspiracy theorists were kind of just doing spoiler alerts. I heard a few months ago. Well, the second time that Rand Paul and Fauci went head to head over gain of
July.
function. Yeah, I started seeing things about, oh, well, Fauci also did reports on, experiments on dogs. So the big one that's coming out, and I got to say, like, this might actually do him in, and I'm going to lean into it because, like, people are furious. I think the number one trending hashtag on Twitter is Fauci lied and dogs died.
Oh, this morning it was something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, I'm not surprised, but I am disgusted. I have a dog. You have dogs. We are big dog loving people. Fauci has the power to cancel Christmas. Okay. If he came out tomorrow and said Christmas cannot happen, there'd be someone in your damn family go, I don't know, maybe we won't do Christmas this year, but and then Christmas will be poof, gone. That's how much power this guy has. We just spent yet another episode talking about how he's lied, how he's been wrong, how he's moved the goalposts. But now everyone wants to wake up when they find out he's doing experiments on dogs. Okay. Yeah. It angers me to no end, but I'll take it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. By any means.
Yeah, by any means, get him out. But
that's how we felt about Cuomo.
Yeah. I mean, Fauci has literally changed the fabric of society by being wrong, and nobody cares, but now they do. So I'm not going to go read this whole thing. And it's pretty funny. This was found out. The issue centers around a report from the animal advocacy group and taxpayer watchdog White Coat Waste Project. The white coats are taking over. Let's see. Puppy testing, specifically beagles. Where was it? Okay. The report states the NIAID, which I think that's what Fauci is the director of, the NIAID, spent $1.6 million in taxpayer funds to poison and debark 44 beagle puppies, force feeding the puppies an experimental drug, cutting their vocal cords, killing, and then dissecting them.
Ugh.
Which is pretty disgusting. So a lot of these dogs have been, their vocal cords have been removed. Shocking that Fauci is in favor of a mask, but I won't go down that one. Known as debarking.
I saw photos of the beagles, like they're like their heads are in like this box, and apparently they're being like bugs are being like let in there to like bite them.
So
them.
it's flesh eating bugs.
Jesus.
And the dogs are debarked, and I think some of them are sedated. I'm not 100% sure, but the experiment is very odd. They put a dog's head in a box with flesh eating insects to experiment if the insects would eat their flesh. You know what I mean? Like, we've already known that this flesh-eating insect eats flesh. Kind of just sounds like, what are we like? That's the one thing I don't know about this. They're really just reporting on the acts
that
have been going on that I've seen.
They're trying to create zombies.
What are we learning? If you put any fleshy material in a box with flesh-eating bugs, the bugs are going to eat the flesh. Right there in their name.
I'm gonna be honest with you, like whatever they're trying to gain from this experiment, I don't want it. I don't want like not at this cost. Not at it ain't worth whatever they're trying to do. If you're gonna tell me that this is gonna heal some sort of flesh-eating disease. Okay, but not at that expense where you're gonna subject, innocent animals to horrific torture, basically.
Well, a lot of scientists, they do experiments on animals and stuff like that. They tested, our award-winning vaccine on animals, and that happened. And now people,
a lot of that they do on mice that they breed themselves, though.
yeah, but then
and
you
even that's
eventually
not
got to get bigger.
right. Even that's not right. Like they're still living creatures at the end of the day. But man, dogs. So like we're going back to before, how people care more about the dogs. Yeah, people care more about dogs than they do people. Even me now that I'm hearing what you're saying, it's like it ain't worth it. No matter what positive you're going to tell me, you're going to get out of feeding beagle heads to flesh eating insects. I don't want whatever you're going to give me from that.
That's why I was like, so what is this research even unveil?
Unveil.
Reveal. Yeah, unveil. What does it reveal? Like, what's the end result of these? What's a successful result of this dog's head being eaten? Where are you going with this? But it's also funny that like Fauci, doesn't want you speaking. He's injecting things with experimental drugs. He's doing these cruel and unusual experiments.
We'll be clear. It's not like he's in there.
No, I know he's not
with
in
like
with
a syringe.
with the evil coat on.
In charge. He's the guy in charge of the departments.
Or now, what is he going to do and come out to rebuttal this? Is he really going to tell us, I didn't know this was going on? So now you don't know your own department is experimenting these horrific experiments on animals. And on top of it, you gave EcoHealth all of our taxpayer money and you didn't know what they were doing because you didn't ask for their report. So you know nothing.
Yeah.
Is that what you're telling?
I'd like to opt out of my tax money going to flesh-eating bugs, eating beagle heads. I'd like to opt out of that one if possible.
Yeah. Isn't it insane like what our taxpayers money like goes to?
Yeah, well,
I get like
we're the terrorists, though. Don't forget, we're the bad guys. Not the government, not the people who do this stuff. No, us, two idiots on a podcast, and all the other idiots that we're friends with on podcasts. The terrorists. We're the violent ones.
Pointing out hypocrisy and how your savior of this, pandemic is wrong at every turn. We're the bad people.
Yeah.
Though, I hope this is what does him in. Any means necessary.
Yeah, man.
Any means.
It really is disgusting. And again, it brings back to just the government is the most violent entity of all. They'll, like I said, they'll label you as terrorist. They'll label you as the worst, as public enemy. But they're the ones that are out there killing people in wars. They're the ones that are out there feeding beagle heads to bugs. And
doing gain of function,
any type
of gain of function.
Yeah. Me and you are on, recording ourselves with video cameras.
Yeah.
But we're the bad guys. Or
you're in a shack in your backyard, and I'm in a basement. And we're the bad. We are the ones that need to. And don't forget, also concerned parents.
Oh yeah,
concerned parents are the worst.
Yeah, that's another story, dude. I mean, we'll save that for another episode. But the original school or school board or union or whatever retracted their letter to the FBI, or that originally got the FBI's attention on the thing, saying, no, we were wrong. We overstated our position. I don't hear anything though from the FBI and Merrick Garland about, okay, we'll stop now.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah. The one funny thing about that though is like parents were like, the FBI is going to arrest me. Okay, come and arrest me. Like all these parents like unanimously were like, nah, F that. Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, they don't want to mess with the mama bears.
No, but maybe I guess that's Fauci's job. Anything else, man? Because
that's it. We
we found Fauci guilty.
That's it. That's the end of Fauci's trial. I think there's enough evidence there to at least warrant an actual trial. Let's leave it at that.
Just to Doom Nation, I know you guys are awake. I know you guys are sitting there agreeing with us. It can't stop here. Share this.
Yeah.
Do the one person. We have the core base. Share this to one person that obviously don't, share it to your blue-haired Joe Biden bumper sticker.
Should share it to that person, but you gotta try in a way. You gotta try and massage. You gotta try. You gotta try to bridge the gap because, it's not. It's more about
I think now finding people who, because when we talked to Sergeant Samurai, he said the most important thing. I'm not willing to talk to the Trump derangement syndrome people anymore. I want to talk to people who are ready to rock and roll. But there is another group. There's still people that are on the fence, that are waking up to some things going, whoa, why is the IRS wanting to look into my bank? Whoa, wait a minute. How come there's all these shipping containers off the coast? Whoa, how come gas in California is $7 a gallon now? You find those people, show them these things, death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
And right here is just 2 more cuts that are going to add to
funny because they
to
asked
the
us,
ending of this.
They asked us in that episode, what can we do? That's what you can do.
Yeah.
Me and you could tell people something, and then, those 2 people tell 2 more, and those 4 tell 6 and 12 and 18, 24, 100, 300, etc. That's what you could do. Spread the message, tell people the truth. That's it.
And even if they don't want to hear what you have to say about Fauci, the great thing about being part of Doom Nation is we got stuff on Biden, we got stuff on Pelosi, we got stuff you will find something to wake someone up in a different part of this chaotic planet that we are now stuck on.
Yeah. And we got more stuff coming soon.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be other stuff to talk about next week. After this, though, we are going to have our Halloween special.
Yes.
Which will be coming out on Sunday, on Halloween. That should be out then.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, Doom Nation, thank you guys for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope we woke someone up. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Get our name out there. It's a big help. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you at the Halloween special.
Later.